हेलो। इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर तो हमको अपडेट हो गया था, लेकिन उसका आई कार्ड अभी तक नहीं लिया। उसका आई कार्ड यहीं से मिलता था ना? नहीं, वहीं से मिलेगा। तो सैटरडे आज खुला रहेगा, मंडे टू फ्राइडे। और उसका कोई वैसा सर्टिफिकेट टाइप का भी मिलेगा इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर का? जैसे बिहार स्टार्टअप में सिलेक्ट होता था तो सर्टिफिकेट मिलता था। कीर्ति मैम से पूछ लेंगे क्या? श्वेता। क्योंकि स्पीकर ऑनलाइन है ना, स्पीकर ऑनलाइन है। यहाँ यहाँ से नहीं। हाँ नहीं है। ऑनलाइन चल रहा है। थोड़ा वो साइड में बैठ जाओ, टू साइड में। यहाँ पे तो कोई नहीं आएंगे ना, उसके बाद आगे कर देंगे उसके बाद बस आप ऑनलाइन है ना, तो फिर देखिए लोग इधर आपकी कंपनी का क्या नाम है? या गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन, राजू सर वी कैन स्टार्ट.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes sir, you are audible. Raju sir.
Okay. Okay, hello, everyone. Hi.
Hello sir.
Are we waiting for more people or can we begin? I think the mic is on mute.
Karan, can we start now?
Yes, sir. We can start. We are ready.
All right. So, good evening, everyone. And
Ready, sir.
it is
Hi, good
indeed a
evening,
very sad day
Rajiv.
for me. I could not be personally, present. मैं आ नहीं सका किसी वजह से because I have a training there at, you know, CIMP on Monday, starting from Monday. तो मैं आ नहीं सका. I'm so sorry. But at the same time, it is a wonderful day. We have with us Vibhu sir. So I'll welcome him and I'll also introduce him. So, Mr. Vibhu Srivastava currently serves as the Vice President of AI Works Artificial Intelligence team at Max Life Insurance. He has an overall work experience of 13 plus years across data science and analytical consulting roles. He joined Max Life in 2018, and prior to his current role at Max Life, he worked with the AI and analytics consulting practice at Cognizant, leading the delivery of AI and data science solutions for a diversified set of clients across the globe. In his 5 year stint at Max Life, he has designed and executed several complex, impactful, and award winning data, science, and AI projects, leveraging cutting edge technology, deep learning, NLP, speech AI, OCR, and multiple machine learning based models, along with leading high business impact functional projects, increasing span and depth of AI analytics, interventions across the business value chains. He has been recognized as a leading AI and analytics professional across multiple industry forums with industry-wide recognitions, awards, and publications. He has represented Max Life across various external forums and has publications across many leading journals. In 2021, he was recognized among the top 40 data scientists, 40 under 40 in India by Analytics India magazine. He is a production engineer and MBA graduate from ISB Hyderabad with a specialization in operations, marketing and analytics. तो विभू सर के बारे में जितना भी इंट्रोडक्शन दिया जाए वो बहुत ही कम होगा एंड इसमें से बहुत सारी टर्मिनोलॉजीज हम लोग में से कई लोगों ने सुना भी नहीं होगा पहले तो मैं इसको यहीं एंड करता हूं अपने इसको और मैं सर का बहुत बहुत स्वागत करता हूं और सर ओवर टू यू
Thank you, Rajiv. I think it was a very jargon full of introduction for many people here. So I will keep it simple. And thanks a lot for inviting me for this particular session. I'm excited to be among all of you and share my thoughts on some of the very new things which have been coming up. And I'm sure that a lot of you have are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs at least. And yeah, I think that technology is something which is sort of at the top of every business today, right? Most of the businesses are today driven by technology. I think around 80% of the startups are today are technology driven, right? Whether it is certain apps or some kind of technology ridden sort of business value creation, right? So that is something which is there as a reality, right? And today I wanted to take this opportunity to be present among all of you and talk about a very very exciting topic, right? And which is a very upcoming topic, which is basically the generative AI and the chat GPT, which is the newest thing which has come in the space of AI. So just very quickly, before I jump on to my presentation, I would want to know, how many of you have heard about ChatGPT?
Almost everyone. Everyone.
Okay, that is great. Normally, when I go to forums, a lot of people had just heard about ChatGPT. And how many of you have used ChatGPT?
All of them. Mostly.
Okay, all of them. Okay, that is great. And I'm sure that most of you have used chat gpt in personal capacity, right? Which is basically for personal productivity and enhancement. So things like writing emails, doing certain research becomes very easy with chat gpt, right? So today I'm going to talk about two things. One is what is the technology behind chat gpt, right? And why it has become so popular, right? And ChatGPT is only one tool of the generative AI technology. Well, there are many others, right? And businesses, and how exactly these tools can be used for businesses, right, at an enterprise level, not at a very personal level. And I'm sure most of you would have used ChatGPT for as I was mentioning that taking some help writing emails, maybe doing some market research, knowing about certain topics. So how it can be taken beyond, this personal productivity improvement gains and applied to some of the enterprise grade solutions, right, which will be very helpful for the businesses, in the upcoming time, right? So I'll just share my screen. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, I can see, sir.
Okay, you can see, great. Okay, so so as I was mentioning, generative AI, and I will use these terms interchangeably, which is basically generative AI in chat gpt. So generative AI is nothing but the technology or the type of AI which we say behind chat gpt. So I will be using this word very frequently. You can just think of right now, the engine behind the chat gpt, right? So, and I'll talk about how this technology actually works as well at the later part of the presentation. So first of all, I think gen ai, or the technology powering chat world, right, and everybody is talking about it. So imagine a technology, a single technology which can actually raise the global GDP by 7%. So it's like saying that today where are we, right? This only just because of this technology I can go 3 years ahead in terms of, the 2.5 to 3 years ahead in terms of the global GDP, right? So that is the scale of potential of this particular technology, right? Or I can say the chat gpt. And it has been talked about all over the place, be it financial companies, be it mckinsey, which are the top consulting companies. Everybody has talked about this, and everybody believes very certainly that this is going to happen, right? So it's a big change which is coming up, right, in the form of the taste is actually the chat gpt, but that's a very big change which is coming up, right? And one of the things which is also sets this particular technology apart from the others which have come in, right? So I mean, if we see the timelines, right, maybe in the last few years there are a couple of things which have come up, right? And one of it was metaverse. If many people or would have heard about that, right? Before this there was something which was called as a blockchain technology. Then before this, machine learning came into picture. Then after that, neural networks came into picture, and some of these technologies have been there, right, for some time. But the amount of interest shown in chat gpt or generative ai is actually very exponential. So from a perspective of people acknowledging that there is something new, and it has really touched everyone's life, right? It is not really about the top technologies sitting there and thinking about something like a metaverse, but it is more like a common person like you and me are actually realizing this and having interest in this. And that is actually set by one of the statistics that google search interest has grown 200% in only 3 to 4 months since the launch of ChatGPT in November 22, right? So in 4 months, almost 100% of the people who are there on Google actually have searched at least once for ChatGPT, right? So it's more about that, that's the kind of interest this particular technology has generated, right? And it's like a storm, right? And there are no boundaries as well. So obviously it comes with certain risks as well, but and I'll talk about it later during the presentation. But that's the kind of scale and that's the kind of popularity chat gpt and generative ai has gained, right? So so what does it mean, right, for us? So what does it mean for people who are starting up? What does it mean for people who are into business roles, what does it mean for enterprises, right? As I was mentioning earlier, in personal capacities, all of us have used ChatGPT for certain personal productivity tasks, right? A ChatGPT can write an email for me, it can format things for me, it can give me information just by asking certain things, right? So that is more on a personal level. People have used ChatGPT, but what about industry applications, right? For something like a GPT. So I'll talk about some of these very interesting applications here, right? And you can ask questions as well. I don't want to make it very monotonous, but yeah, you can ask questions as well. I'll pause in between and ask for if you have any questions. So I'll just talk about some of these applications at an industry level. So Bloomberg, if you, I'm sure a lot of you would know about Bloomberg. So Bloomberg is something like Yahoo Finance, right? It's basically an analyst company in the US, and how they are using generative AI application is that, they have developed their own GPT, which is, so Chat GPT is by the OpenAI, right? And Bloomberg has developed their own GPT model, which they are calling as Bloomberg GPT, right? So assume that, in a financial company, there are thousands of analysts which are there, right? And they have to do a lot of research, right? They have to do a lot of financial analysis. They have to identify which sentiment for which particular company. They have to look at stock data, etc., etc., right? And they also have a huge library of some of these reports which are being developed by these analysts, right? Which they refer on day-to-day basis. So assume that as a job of an analyst, right? That they have to do a lot of research and they have to come up with, what kind of a suggestion they can give to their particular clients, or publish in the analyst report for specific companies. So for that, Bloomberg, what they did is that they analyzed, or they have kept all their financial data, right, and build a GPT, or basically a LLM model or a AI model on top of that, right? And that basically is used by the analyst to search some of the things. So it can do things like company sentiment analysis, right? If you want to know that, what is the sentiment for a particular company. If I want to ask, okay, what is the current sentiment of Reliance Industries, right? Is it positive? Is it negative? If it is positive, obviously I can have all the, I can basically, you know influence people to put in my report that, it has a positive outlook, maybe because of certain investments which are going in the right direction, etc. It can predict certain market prices, right? And that's something where you can predetermine certain probabilities of, obviously, you can increase your profitability. Then it can also do something like a news classification. So all these analysts, right, if you see, they always watch CNBC, or ET Times, or some of these things where they do a lot of news analysis as well, right? So as the news comes in for a company, analysts basically define whether this news is positive or negative for the company, and how it is going to shape the future of the company. So in order to classify certain news, that whether it is positive, negative, that can be done in an automated way. Then things like headline generation. I want to write a very classy top headline, right, for my analysis, right, which is going to be published obviously in Bloomberg. So that can be done. And apart from that, question answering. So assume that question answering in the context of the financial markets and in the context of a very specific Bloomberg data can be done using, this kind of a tool which they have developed. So they are basically, this is one example where they use the textual data, or basically the text data which is there in their previous reports, to sort of make some of these decisions automated for the analyst, right? And it will hugely impact the productivity of the analyst in the positive direction, right? So that was one example. Now I will also talk about certain very interesting things which are coming up using, the generative AI. And one of the things, I don't know if you guys have sort of thought or maybe listened, that recently what we have seen is that, the Korean movies are getting very popular, right, in India. A lot of people watching Korean movies, right? And it has somehow spurred in demand in terms of watching some of these stuff, right? And it's all over the place now. It's, if you go to Netflix and you search, you'll get something which is which is there on that OTT platform as well. So Lenskart, what they have done is that they have actually generated AI models, right, for a K-pop collection, right? So they have, so this is an artificially created band, which is the K-pop band, which is basically a Korean pop band, right? And they have created these models through a generative AI application, right? So none of these people whom you see on the screen are actually real. They are generated through these models, right? And that's basically called as image generation through generative AI. So I just play this video as well. So are you able to hear the sound? Hello, am I
Yes, sir, I
audible?
could. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could.
Okay. So yeah, because sometimes what happens is that if you play on your system, the sound doesn't come. But yeah, so this is what something they have done very novel. If you go on the Lenskart website, also you will be able to see this K-pop collection, right? So all these models or pictures or content which you see on their website, right, is artificially generated through a generative AI model, right? And what they are calling as a K-pop band collection, right? To sort of promote it, right? And imagine that they do not need any physical models to sort of do a shooting, or get them into a studio, or basically get them together, pay that money even to those models, and generate this, or do this campaign kind of a thing, right? That's how it happens in today's world. But so that's the plethora of possibility which they have explored. And that's one example of enterprise grade generative AI application, right? If I talk about image generation content, I was just playing around and having some fun with some of these tools as well. So on the left side, that is my picture basically, imagining me as a model, okay, which is 18 to 24 years old. So I just recreated this picture using generative AI, one of the generative AI applications. Similarly, the second one, if I want to say today have a brand of say shades, right? If I have a company which has a brand of shades, and I want to create my own campaign. So this is completely artificially generated, right? And this is, and the third picture is just, I was very curious, few days back, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, we had this Chandrayaan 3 launching on the moon, right? So I was curious that can I make something very quickly, generate something very quickly with these thoughts. So actually gave me these particular pictures. So imagine that if I want to run a campaign very specifically, or maybe write a blog even, right? I can quickly generate this instead of creating this manually, and I can quickly generate this in 1 or 2 minutes using using the generative AI models, right? So that's the power of the kind of generative AI models which we are seeing in today's world, right? Now it has gone beyond sort of image generation as well. So we saw one example where it was textual data, which is more like a text data put into the Bloomberg GPT. The second application was more from a image generation campaigns kind of a thing. And it has actually gone beyond, and you will see a lot of avatars as well coming in. And many of these are now becoming real, right? Earlier they were just in the labs, but now they are becoming more and more real, right? So if you see on the left side, I would want to show you this, which is basically the Lisa. So Odisha TV has actually launched this, which is the AI avatar news reader, right? I don't know if you have heard about. Okay, just be aware with that.
अच्छा देखिए तो एक्चुअल एक्ट्रेस है, उसका फोटो लेके और फिर एआई में फीड करके कर दिया।
उसका मूवमेंट को उसे दिया।
अब उसको वो अपना दूसरा काम करते रहेगी।
पता चल जाता है उसका जो स्पीच का जो है ना, वो पता चल जाता है वो। हाँ हाँ हाँ, ये
Who is this talking so much?
Okay. Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure you would have heard the sound as well. So, okay. Mm, okay, similarly, I think so. Aaj Tak has also introduced this anchor called as Sana, right? It's a very similar thing basically. It's technically a AI avatar only, right? And I'll just show you here only. I think it will be. Okay. Okay, I think there is some problem with the sound. Are you able to hear? Hello?
Yeah, your voice is clear.
Okay. So I think the video voice was a bit of an issue. Let me just reshare again.
Hello, you are watching Aaj Tak AI and I am Aaj Tak's AI anchor Sana. I have brought big news from India and abroad. So let's have a look at the headlines of this time. Bangalore double murder accused arrested. Sabrish, also known as Joker Felix, killed CEO and MD of tech startup over professional rivalry. BJP fact-finding team in Bengal amid poll violence. Targets Mamta government over deaths during polls. CM Mamta cries conspiracy, calls BJP.
Okay, so this was Sana. Actually, this is the new, AI avatar for the news reading in Aaj Tak. So that was one another example of of the generative AI. And I thought, this is my own models. Let me generate something for BHub as well. So I'll just share my screen and show you. I also just created something for the BHub. So let me just share. Okay, just going back to the presentation. Okay.
Hello everyone. Welcome to BHub. BHub is all about turning innovative ideas into successful startups. We have everything in place to help startups build successful business models. At BHub, we bridge the gap between idea and execution. We support innovation with mentorship that paves way for startups to turn into successful businesses. Namaste. BHub में आपका स्वागत है. BHub मदद करता है आपके इनोवेटिव आइडियाज को सफल स्टार्टअप्स में बदलने में. हमारे पास स्टार्टअप्स के लिए सारी सुविधाएं हैं जिससे कि आप अपने आइडियाज को एक सक्सेसफुल बिजनेस मॉडल में कन्वर्ट कर सकते हैं. हम सपोर्ट करते हैं इनोवेशन को मेंटरशिप के साथ जो आपके स्टार्टअप को सफल बनाने में मदद करता है. तो आइए आपके आइडिया को मिलकर बनाते हैं एक सक्सेसफुल
Okay. So this is something which I thought I'll quickly generate using this Gen AI model, right? Which is basically for video generation, video and audio generation, right? Using a text input. So that's about some of the applications. And last year this was a very interesting thing which had come up. I don't know if some of you would have heard about it. Is that this Cadbury launched Shah Rukh's ad, right, as a brand ambassador for local kirana stores, right? Now imagine that people or the local kirana stores which are selling Cadbury, right? They were sort of shut for almost 2 years, right, for COVID. So and they had very less business. So as a gesture to sort of you know increase their business or bring them to life, right? This Cadbury took this initiative where it has used this generative AI model, right, to generate basically custom speech or custom video for all the retailers where Shah Rukh Khan is talking about a specific kirana store, right? Now which is not actually possible for somebody like a Shah Rukh Khan to actually do these ads or do this kind of a thing, right, for every thousands of kirana stores which are selling Cadbury, right? So I'll just show you that. It's very interesting and inspiring, actually.
अब तो स्टार्टअप के लिए टीम का जरूरत नहीं है इससे हो जाएगा
Can't hear the audio.
Oh, you can't hear the audio?
No, not online.
Okay, just a second.
Big businesses and brands that suffered
Are you able to hear now?
Yeah, perfect.
during the pandemic found their way back, but the smaller stores still suffer.
This lockdown has been a real tough phase of my life. I mean, I have seen bad days, but this was the worst.
Last year we helped small businesses through Diwali, so this year we decided to bring it back. Presenting not just a Cadbury ad. This Diwali, we helped hundreds of small businesses by making India's biggest brand ambassador be their brand ambassador.
इस दिवाली आप भी ना अपने पास वाले फैशन नोवा एम्पोरियम से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना और फिर एम्पायर फुटवेयर नाम तो सुना होगा अपना स्टाइलिश चश्मा बगल वाले हेवन आई ऑप्टिशियन से ही लेना सिद्धि विनायक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स से लेटेस्ट स्मार्टफोन खरीदकर धमाकेदार सेल्फी पोस्ट करना
क्या कर रहे हो मीठा लाए कि नहीं
लाया हो ना यार अपने पास वाले रोशन किराना से आप भी अपना मीठा वहीं से लेना
We used machine learning to recreate Shah Rukh Khan's face and voice to take the local store names in the ads.
इस दिवाली आप भी ना अपने पास वाले चॉइस ऑफ फैशन से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना पास वाले आजकल फैशन से ही रॉयल फैशन से ही MK क्लॉथ्स से ही पास वाले लक्ष्मी कलेक्शन से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना इस दिवाली आप भी ना अपने पास
Different versions of the same ad with local store names were targeted as per the PIN code of the viewer, showing them only the nearby stores. But it is impossible to cover all the stores. So we gave the power to the people to create
Okay, so that was something which which is very interesting, and it's a perfect application of Gen AI, right? Where these stores were actually, so they had actually developed a tool where you can actually use this entire video and tune the model to just mention your particular own store name, right? And that's how it was so perfectly customized kind of a thing, right? So that was something which was very interesting, and it's something which is a very breakthrough kind of a thing using sort of a generative AI application, right? So that's another example. I'll just go back to my presentation. So are you able to see my presentation? Okay. So I'll just pause here maybe for a minute. If anybody has any questions or thoughts, they can share now. The next section, I'll talk about more about the technology, right, and how this works technically, and what are the tools which are available. Some of the tools which are available for you for your own startups, probably to sort of which you can use and leverage to try out some of these things.
माइक को ऑन कर लीजिए, उसको ऑन कर दीजिए। बैटरी खत्म है क्या? मेरी साइड से ऑन हो रहा है। और
बोल दे।
हाँ हाँ,
I have a question. Am I audible?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, can you please name out few of the tools by using which we can create these kinds of video?
Yeah, sure. So I have a slide. I will tell you some of those tools in later in the presentation. So you can try your own, you can create, you can just play around with that. So I mean, these these tools today are not very, I mean, not free really, but yeah, I mean, it's for trying out.
Okay, even the demo version of those tools or app is not available for now.
No, you can try out some of those. Some of those are free. So I'll just tell you during the presentation itself. Just a
Okay.
second.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so I was here. So now I'll just spend some time on the basically what goes behind this, right? What goes behind this kind of a model, or what this is a bit more technical, but yeah, I mean, just good to know stuff for you. So this is how the AI landscape has actually progressed, right? So earlier we had this programming, right, which was more of hard coded rules. So it is more like a software system, right, which we all use. So maybe if you think about a SAP or any kind of other software system, where you are basically trying to do certain things basis some coded rules. So for example, if my invoice value is greater than $1,000, then you have to go take an approval, right? So it pops up that particular approval. So those are more like very kind of traditional programming softwares which we use, right? Which we called, and then it came out that from the BI perspective, when we talk about things like analytical tools, like say for example a Tableau or a Microsoft Power BI, or maybe something like a click sense which came into existence, right, which were more on a descriptive kind of a thing. So we all of us have these business reports, right, which are more descriptive in nature. So which basically analyzes historical data, right? So what happened in the month, what is happening during the month, what happened in the last year. All those reports which we today see in the business world are all descriptive analysis, because it is based on historical data, right? Machine learning then came into a picture, and machine learning basically is nothing but you don't need any explicit programming rules. So in order to say that to do a certain action. So for example, when you go to a bank, right, to take a loan, right, the bank has a machine. Most banks today have machine learning models which basically decide actions in terms of how much loan they can offer to you, basis what is your profile, say for example. Or there are many today platforms which can give you instant loans as well, right? you just enter two or three important information. So if I just enter my mobile number or maybe my PAN card, it'll basically tell me how much loan I am eligible for, and it is free basically. So what they're doing is they're running machine learning models at the back end. So assume that I have a bureau presence, right? I have a civil presence, and I just sort of give my mobile number. They hit the bureau, get all my data, and they run a model on top of it, which decides basically that what is the risk I am carrying for getting a particular kind of a role. Right? So these are machine learning models which do not have any explicit programmed rules, but they decide on the input data basis the past trends, right? So those are more on a predictive analytics kind of a thing. Those are more related to statistical analysis. These are probability models, or I just want to say that these are more like a future decision making. Then came the prescriptive aspect, where we are saying that now the next level of this was that intelligent systems which can prescribe certain actions. So basis maybe the likelihood, the score of my own risk, it can prescribe that how much exactly loan I can get, right? So the machine learning model can tell me that what is the risk I am carrying for getting a particular loan, and the prescriptive part will tell me that what is the exact amount I can get off from that. So what is the next best action for you? And many other examples as well. So you would have seen, a lot of nudges which you get, right? If you buy something, you get very similar nudges. So if I buy something on Amazon, I'll if I go to some other site, it'll show me similar things only, right? Or it will show me discounts, it will show me filtered information. All these are next best actions, or basically basis prescriptive models. Then came the realm of the generative AI, which is basically it is generating new content on its own. So it is like a human imitation, right? While previously machine learning and hardcore programming till prescriptive analytics, it was more about decision from a machine, but on basis on human fed information, right? Or the past information, largely. Generative AI is more imitating to human capability, right? And it is more like a new creation. So it can design new content, it can create new content, it can mimic human imagination and creativity. And all of us saw during those some of those videos I was showing you, or examples I was showing you, the kind of imagination and creativity it brings on the table, right? And largely it is more to say at an individual level, more about human productivity improvement. And we talked about it when all of us said that, we know chat gpt and we use chat gpt for personal productivity improvement as well, right? So that's the overall landscape of technology, to talk about, the entire where does this generative AI fall. Now, there are two types of models. This is more a little bit of technical stuff. I just wanted to touch upon that so that you go back that this is something, which also has to give you a complexity flavor, right? So it's see, some of these models are very in a nascent stage, and this is a complex thing to be done. It's not something which is very simple, right? While on the face of it, because so many tools have come in, it looks, for a user it looks very simple, but at the back end there are complex models which are running in. So there are largely two types of models which we have, right? And how does it actually work? So you give some text input, either it will give a text output, which is a part of the generative language model. So on the left side I've just kept generative language models, where imagine the example of the Bloomberg which I gave to you, where we were talking about, I'm playing around with textual data, and I'm saying that I input certain text and it gives me question answering kind of a thing, or I can also summarize data, I can also translate data. Some of those things are textual. Then image and video, I give a text input. So for example, in the second example I was talking about, my own image, say for example, in the form of a model, right? So that's a text input given, and an image and produced out of it. And similarly video can also be generated, as I had shown you in the bhub video itself, right? And similarly the audio can also be generated. So these are more like generative language models, right? And chat gpt is an example of generative language model currently, right? So it uses gpt 3.5, which is basically a language model. When we talk about image models, right, some of these, so for example, when I give an image input, it can do certain diffusion. So, for example, I will pick the example of my own picture, right, which was converted to the to the model, right, which I had given. So I had given my own image as an input, which was my selfie as an input, and actually these are diffusion models which will create basically diffusion from different set of images, and it will create some outputs. Now those outputs can be text also, it can be image, video also, it can be audio also. So some of the use case example can be that I want to generate a logo for my company. I can sort of maybe put certain images as well there and generate a logo as a diffused image from that. Or I can use a generative language model where I can say that I put some description of my company and I can generate multiple logos out of it. So these are the two largely buckets of the language models. And chat gpt, as I mentioned, is in on the left side, which is more from a generative language model kind of thing. Now what is chat gpt? Chat gpt has three parts actually, or four parts technically. Chat is nothing but it can engage with humans in a conversational format, that's why it's named as chat. G is generative because it generates certain words, right? It technically generates content, right? It generates certain words, and it is out of generative AI. Then pre-trained is because it's trained on a host of text. So how ChatGPT was trained? So ChatGPT was trained on 45 TB of data actually, right? Which was gathered from the internet. So imagine that there is this ChatGPT model which has been trained on the entire data which is present on the internet, right? And so hence it has seen that data which is present on the internet in a very layman's language, and then it is answering certain questions. Yeah, and that is the pre-trained part of it, right? So it did not start from scratch and start answering questions, right? It was trained on certain data already, and then it started answering questions. And T stands for transformers, which was actually introduced by Google. So it's a type of neural network, uh, which is basically which is nothing but it's more like a algorithm, you can say. It's a transformer algorithm which was started by Google, and the architecture of this chat gpt model is based on that particular algorithm. Now how it works is, in simple terms, this is something which is called as reinforcement learning with human feedback. So what is different in a normal chatbot and a chat gpt? So can anybody tell me what is the difference? So for example, you interact with a lot of chatbots today. So for example, I order on Zomato and I have a problem with my order. So I go to Zomato app and it has a chatbot. Similarly, anything, I do a Google search as well, right? I can do a Google search where I can do what is different in these chatbots and what is different with ChatGPT. Any answers? Okay, no, am I audible clearly? Okay. Okay, so basically, the difference is that Chat GPT has been trained by human feedback. When I say human feedback, what is the meaning of this? Now, a model can generate certain output when you give certain input. So, for example, I can ask any kind of question. What I can ask, what is ABC from a Chat GPT model, right? Now, how do I make sure that and now it is exposed to everybody across the world, right? So how do I make sure that people do get the right answer, and it is safe, harmless, and it is not something which is kind of destructive, right? And it is also in the form of the right tone and kind of expectation which a human is having. So human feedback means that all the answers, right, which were generated during the training period from ChatGPT was actually reviewed by humans, right? So a human reviews that answer during the training period of that model and says that whether this answer is right or wrong, right? So if I ask a question to ChatGPT that what are the best or what are the possible ways of harming someone, So it will not give me that answer, because it was trained through that human feedback, and the human feedback or the human sitting behind it earlier during the training time told the model that do not give this kind of answers. Okay, so that's the meaning of a human feedback loop. How does it work? Largely is nothing. It's a complex thing, and a simple in a simple way I've tried to represent it here, that you send a question, there is an embedding model. An embedding model is nothing but it converts all your text into numbers, because the algorithms understand only numbers. So that's called as vector embedding. It will search these vector embedding from the vector database. Now, this vector database for ChatGPT is the entire sort of internet, right? And internet data, which it has been trained on, which is pre September 21, I think. And it will search these answers and then again generate the answer and bring back the query or the answer to the user. So that's simply how it works. While there are many steps on how this is what kind of numbers it is converted with, and how does it actually do a vector match and come back with the right answer. And you would have also realized that in this particular aspect, that if two of you ask the same question to chat gpt, will not give exact the same it not exactly give the same answer. And that is what the difference between a normal sort of nlp or a chatbot and a chat gpt is, because it is generating words on its own. I will just skip this. I just want to mention, one of the things is that, so basically, ChatGPT is nothing but an instruction-tuned LLM, which we call as a large language model. A large language model is nothing but it basically predicts what will come next, right? And that's the kind of algorithm which is there for the ChatGPT, right? So earlier there were similar models, but they were not that efficient, because and they were base LLMs, because they were not that smarter, and that they were not basically trained to follow certain instructions. So along with ChatGPT, there are new things or emergence of LLMs or generative AI, whatever you want to call it. These are parts of similar things. Are new fields emerging. So there is one thing which is always there, that for instruction tuned llms, or what we call as chat gpt, is that the clearer the instructions you give, the better the answer you will get, right? And I'm sure you would have experienced it at well. And that is called as a new discipline which is coming in, which is called as a prompt engineering, right? So on the left side, if you see, I just gave a prompt where I said that explain moon landing. Now, moon landing is something which is a technical thing, right? And it gave me the entire factual information with lot of jargon. Say, for example, it was Apollo lunar module. It was Eagle on the Apollo 11 mission. What was the launch of the journey? What is a descent? What is landing? Right? All those things are generated in that. But imagine that if I'm a father of a 5-year-old kid, and I'm asking the same question, right? Now, in order to set my expectation right for the model, I'll engineer my prompt is in layman terms, that I wrote that I want to explain moon landing to my 5-year-old kid, right? And can you explain it to my son like a father? So it changed this content, and while the content was very similar, it has actually changed the entire tone, right? And it has made it much simpler. So if you read it here, it has made it much simpler. It's not talking about those jargons. And the next part is that it retains the context. So the previous question I asked was in context of my 5-year-old kid, and I just added that, can you explain this in 5 simple steps? So along with including some facts, right? So it actually used the context of my previous answer, where I was saying that I am basically explaining this to a 5-year-old kid, and then it actually took the context, and that's the combination of context plus prompt engineering which the model takes in, right? So these are some of the important things which even in your personal capacity of use of chat gpt, which you can use, right? So that's how these are emerging. And then there was a question around this the landscape of chat gpt, similar gen ai tools. So this is one. For say, for example, for image generation, which I was just showing you, you can use things like Mid Journey. There is DALI, there is OpenArt, there is Playground, there are a lot of tools like this which you can use. For video generation, there are a lot of Indian tools as well. There is a tool called Synthesia. There are other a lot of other tools also which are mentioned here, which is Tavas is also one. Then you have Rephrase.ai, which is an Indian startup which is doing the same thing. So you can go to Google and look for them. You can generate certain videos. Similarly for speech, and another important thing which has come into picture is the code, right? So a lot of people, so I can ask ChatGPT to generate a set of code also for me, right, based on this particular application, right? So there's a lot of tools which have come in for code generation also, and GitHub Copilot is something which is quite popular. So and we are exploring the same as well, that it can actually help people start up with code generation. So imagine that you don't need to hire someone who is extremely well versed with the code, and people are difficult to find it, right? Find experienced folks. So you can, maybe now the time has come that you hire someone with basic aptitude skills and give him a GitHub Copilot to generate that code, right? So with a basic understanding of those functions, he can do that for you. From an enterprise side, all of the top companies have anyways come up with tools, which, so Microsoft has launched its own, along with collaboration of OpenAI. It has launched GPT-4 and GPT 3.5 Access. Amazon has come up with Titan and Claude, which is basically their own uh, versions of ChatGPT, if I were to say. Similarly, Google Palm 2 is also again a version of ChatGPT, or Google Palm 2 is from Google. And LangChain is nothing but more of a framework, right, which has come in. How do you actually use some of these models at the enterprise grade? And there are open source models which have also come in. So Falcon is one of the open source model. Llama is from Meta, and there are many others, right? So many of the tools are not, of these tools which you see here are not free. Even for trial, some of these are free, but many of these are not free actually. So I mean, but yeah, anyways, you can explore and you can sort of use some of these tools and see how it can really benefit your businesses. uh, at the last, I want to spend some time very quickly on the what are the top use cases for generative AI capabilities which you can do, right? Think about in your own business setting. So, for example, the number one is the content search and the Q&A, and which the example of which we saw in the Bloomberg example, right, which is basically content search kind of a thing. You can search certain content intelligently, right? You don't need to shuffle through various documents. You can make sense of out of it, etc. uh, the second is the new content generation, and we saw that all throughout the presentation during the initial part, where I was talking about how images can be generated, how text can be generated, how videos can be generated. That's a new content creation. Then there are things like content analysis as well, where I am saying that nothing but, I give a set of documents and I say that I want to do certain analysis. For example, I give a balance sheet and I say that, okay, tell me what is the growth of this company from 2019 to 2023. Now it can analyze that particular content and give me a growth answer very simply. Text summarization is again, this is more in context of large document summarization. Suppose I want to make product brochures from large technical details, right? So I can do that. There are legal documents which I want to summarize, contract documents which I want to summarize, etc. There are resumes which I want to summarize, has also come into picture. There are tools which have come in where you can summarize resumes, right? That which is what are the key skills of this particular person, and you don't have to go through all those 500, 600 resumes, right? Then there is a comprehension and translation aspect. So language translation has become very easy. So I can translate English to any other language, Hindi to any other language, and there are a lot of languages which have come in. Even from these tools, a lot of vernacular support has come in. So those are large business cases or use cases of generative AI. In terms of the business value chain, I've just put across few pointers. So from a sales perspective, things like sales enabler bots, virtual sales twins. It's like a virtual twin, which we just saw, things like that during the in the video, etc. You can do a lot of market research. I'm sure a lot of people do market research using ChatGPT and finding exact answers instead of Google searching. very important in product and marketing. A lot of people are now using it for marketing campaigns, content generation, and we saw that in the examples. That was the maximum biggest or the biggest use case I can say, from in terms of campaign creation, designing their own products, marketing, creating marketing avatars, etc. So that's the biggest area I would say. In terms of customer servicing, if you are into a business which require customer service operations, you can create automated customer servicing bots, right, which can understand these conversations with the customer. uh, there are call center assistants which can be made, customer communication. A lot of these synthetics videos which we saw campaigns can be sent to your customers, right? If you have a promotional offer, assume that you open your WhatsApp and there is a video which talks very personally to you, saying that, you know, hi Rajiv, hi Dr. Rajiv, you know, this is something, and this is the new offer which we have, we saw that, etc. And it's very uh, it's like near life for you, right? Somebody is speaking in front of you. That's much more persuasive in terms of a campaign, a particular campaign, instead of you sending a text or a textual message most of the people might not even see. There are other areas I was mentioning, that applications such as coding twins, GitHub Copilot is an example. Recruitment I talked about, resume shortlisting. There are interview bots as well which people are building. Then legal and compliance document reviewing, virtual HR assistants. So assume that you have a big companies have HR policies, right? And you don't have to reach out to any HR person to understand those policies. You can just have a chatbot which can actually which can give you all the answers which you require, basis inferencing from your own documents, kind of a thing, or own HR documents. So technically, there is no need of or lower need of administrative jobs, like you reaching out to people and they are telling you information which is already present in some of the documented way, right? So these are largely the use cases. There are certain potential risks as well, right? Which is largely in terms of obviously these models are pre-trained, and if you use a tool, they will take your data. It's not that you know if you so if I give my picture to a model, it will take that picture basically, and it will be there in the model repository, though it will not be exposed to general public. But the person who has created that tool, or the company which has created that particular tool, knows what I'm trying to do and what I'm doing. So obviously there is a chance of data leakage, frauds. Some of these ads which you saw, right? I mean, many things can be malicious or frauds also, right? I can create someone speaking something which might not be true, and that's what came with deep folks, right? So there was some so some of these are also very high potential risk. Hallucinatory outputs also come into picture, where if I'm asking certain question but that information is not really true, so it can also certain times hallucinate. The model can hallucinate, is what we call. It can give you certain imaginary answers as well. It might not be true. So if I ask that, man, if I imaginarily make a plan, say for example that, what is the optima plan from Max Life Insurance? Now there is no a product called Optima from Max Life Insurance, but it will give me an answer by generating certain text around it, right? So that's called hallucination. So there are ways of overcoming it, but yeah, that's a potential risk. And again, there are copyright challenges, as we see in the obviously in the ad which we saw, right? And lack of stable point of reference, more from a technical perspective, that these are still exploratory, and the scale at which people can use it not yet known, right? While people, most of the companies are still in exploratory mode, but yeah, I mean, obviously, where will it get stable, we don't know. So that's all. I think that is all what I had today to present. If there are any questions, I can answer them.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, I have a question. Like, how can I integrate ChatGPT for our sales customer support? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, there was a question, I think so. It was not very clear. Sorry.
My question is like, how can I integrate ChatGPT with our system now so that we can provide customer support or like to communicate. We can connect with the WhatsApp or like.
So ChatGPT has its own API. So if you go to openai.com, it will give you it will basically you can go to the section called as ChatGPT for enterprises, and it can be exposed through an API. So we are building several applications using ChatGPT API. So it's available through an API, but it is not free. So it is it charges you money, but you can use it for enterprise. So you can actually hit that API and get the model output and basically integrate it with your system. So that's available from ChatGPT perspective. Hello, was I okay?
Yeah, Vibhu, you are audible. This is Nilesh. Good evening.
Hi Nilesh, hi.
Yeah, I just have a question. Like you were talking about the logo.
Yeah.
So right now, what is happening for the logo or for a trademark for a company, we need to pay certain fees for that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Wherein if we create any logo for artificial intelligence kind of or what the app you were talking about, do we
Mm-hmm.
need to pay anything for that logo to get it patent, or it's can be done without paying any fee or without any legal repercussion or anything?
No. So Nilesh, it is. So I was not talking about getting your logo registered. I was talking about creating a logo. So today, what happens that when you sort of want to design a particular logo, right? You will either give it to a particular designer or you will hire some design firm to sort of develop your own logo, right? That's how you will do it. So now it will cost some amount of money to you. I was talking about that there are tools which are available which can do it for you rather than so you need a skillful design person, right? Technically these design firms, how do they work? They will take all the branding assignments from companies, right? That's how they work. That they will design the logo, they'll design your interiors, they'll design your sort of stationery. That's how they will earn money, right? All the designer creative firms, or what we
Okay,
call
all
as
the profiling and everything can be done through that, right?
yeah. You can directly, instead of going to them, a person who is a non-designer can actually sit on this tool and design some of the things for you.
Absolutely, right, right.
So that
Thank
is
you so
what.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
sure.
got it. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Questions? Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, can we teach GPT?
Sorry. What was the question?
Can we teach your chat GPT? He's asking how we हम उसको कुछ सिखा सकते हैं कि हम अपने तरीके से हमारे तरीके से काम करें.
Okay, chat gpt okay, chat gpt something मेरे ख्याल से इसमें सीखना बहुत ही आसान है. Chat gpt so you can there are several basic courses of chat
नहीं
gpt.
चैट सॉरी क्वेश्चन ये है चैट जीपीटी को हमें सिखाना है कि हमारे तरीके से काम करें. चैट जीपीटी सीख सकता है.
चैट जीपीटी सीख सकता है. चैट जीपीटी को आप डिफरेंट तरीके से सिखा सकते हैं. सो इट इज मोर लाइक अ प्रॉम्प्ट इंजीनियरिंग. सो आई थिंक व्हाट यू आर आस्किंग इज दैट I will give you one example. So for example, I have a HR policy document. Okay, so I have this document which has all my HR policies, and I can use chat gpt API to sort of uh, 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 put this document in the realm of chat gpt. तो अभी chat gpt को पता नहीं है ना कि मेरी HR policies क्या है, मेरे कंपनी की HR policies क्या है. तो there are ways where you can sort of teach chat gpt कि यार ये ले मेरी HR कंपनी की policies, और अब जो आंसर करना ना वो इसी में से करना. So that particular capability can be used if you were asking the same question, and that's how you can actually use it for your own enterprise. Say for example, and now that will give me, so if I ask about my own, then I can expose it to my employees, and then I can say कि यार अब तुम आंसर करो, उसी से आंसर करना जो मेरे एम्प्लॉय हैंडबुक में लिखा है. So that can be done using ChatGPT APIs.
Yeah, that is kind of like एक रूल लिख दिया, उस रूल के हिसाब से करेंगे. जैसे कोई चीज रिव्यू करने का मैं तरीका बता दूं, तो वो तरीका अडॉप्ट करेंगे ये जो तरीका मैं बता रहा हूँ कि ऐसे रिव्यू करना है.
So you can give the guidelines. You can give the guidelines. So for example, in the example where I was showing here ki I I asked those the second question, right, where I was asking that ki I am a father of 5-year-old son, and now tell me answer according to that. So for example, and I can also say कि यार मैं customer हूँ, आप आप एक सेल्स पर्सन हो, अब मुझे आप सेल्स पर्सन की तरह ही आंसर दोगे. So I can teach that to ChatGPT and tell that you have to take the role of that particular person. So I can tell ChatGPT that you are an HR agent and this is what you know about my company policies and this is how you are going to answer. I can also tell that always answer in soft tone, ताकि कोई भी कस्टमर क्वेश्चन पूछे या कोई भी मेरा एम्प्लॉय क्वेश्चन पूछे तो कभी स्ट्रेट रूड आंसर नहीं देना है. ऑलवेज से सॉरी. आई कैन टेल ऑल दीज थिंग्स टू चैट जीपीटी.
That's kind of context switching. Context के हिसाब से वो करेगा. मैं थोड़ा सा और इलैबोरेट करता हूँ क्वेश्चन को. सपोज करेंगे मैंने कोड लिखा, कोई सोर्स कोड लिखा और सोर्स कोड को सही काम कर लेंगे और उसके हिसाब से
I think I missed the last part. You said that you have written a source code, right? I think you are on mute. आपका IT CIMP seems on mute. Yeah. So your question was you have written a source code.
yeah, and then we have a guideline, we have a rule for reviewing that source code. So we
Okay.
want to that reviewing rule to that ChatGPT.
It
It's
can
not
do
like
that.
it's a bit deeper than the context switching.
Yeah, so it can do that as well because you are just prescribing certain rule, right? Say for example, you are given a source code and you are saying that, you know, after every function, give me a line break. There needs to be a line break. Now that is a sort of a rule, right? So it can adjust your code accordingly. That is why we say that it is. Rekha, can you go on mute, please?
Yes, sir, please speak.
Yeah, sorry, I think you muted all the participants, so sorry about that. So I was saying that that is why it is called as instruction tuned LLM, where you can give certain rules around which you want to do certain tasks. So if you have given a source code and if you want to say that after every function I need a block which will say that this is the end of the function, and I will and please sort of and write the name of the function after every function again. So it can do that particular thing for you. That's why it's called as instruction tuned LLMs. It's basically it will follow your instruction and that's how it has been tuned. Now if you talk about very complex tasks, you will have to explain it in like that. That is the important thing. That's where prompt engineering comes into picture. If you explain it, if you explain the logic very well, it will give you a perfect answer. So you can try giving some numbers as well. You can try in ChatGPT. You can give 3 years of numbers. So if you give that in 2009, I made this much amount, 100 rupees as revenue. In 2021, I made 300 rupees as revenue. Can you tell me what is the growth rate between these 2 years? So it can calculate and tell you. There are mathematical functions already embedded in that. So it can tell you that your growth was 100%. And similarly, other mathematical functions can also be done. Now there are very specific scenarios for which you might have to give certain examples. You can also say that this is my example, code A and code B. This is how all the code should be written. If you give it as an example, that will set more context, and then later on you can say that I only want things or only want my code written to be in this particular manner, like code A and code B. So that can be done. But you have to instruct in the best possible way.
I have a little question. So, do we have any tool available where we provide the website, the URL, and they can provide the security thread for that or the functionality feature for that?
I'm sure there would be certain websites. I'm not very sure of this particular functionality. That I think that comes more in terms of cyber security kind of a thing. So I would not be able to tell you right now, but I'm sure there will be certain. Obviously, there will be certain tools which can scan your website and tell you the threat.
Yeah, security wise, there were few. I could not find anyone which provides the feature detail, like creating a document for a website. So let's say we have created our own website and we have the feature listed over there. But if we want to create the document that these are the features we have implemented. So sometimes we miss, like we could not provide all the details what we have already implemented. So if we find some website or AI a specific website, AI powered website, which provides all the details in a document manner. Like there are few websites where few tools which we record, which we use as a screen recording, and we click all over the websites and it creates a beautiful screenshot included document where it creates the flow and all. So in that regard, I was just seeking if there are any websites.
I have not come across such an application. Maybe there will be, I'm sure, but I'm not sure about. Well, I don't have anything on top of my mind right now which can do that. But I'm sure it can do that. Many there will be tools which can do that. Or I mean, I can think of a very simple thing right now, that in this context, that I copy the entire web page and I dump it in maybe a particular Word document, and I save it as a PDF, and I give it to ChatGPT, and I ask that if you can format it in the below manner, that list all the features of that particular website, list all the content in a bulleted manner. That can be done. But I think more than that, I am not aware of any tools, and maybe there are many.
So yeah, that is the part I thought, like just now, like with your help of this insight, we'll explore this. Yeah,
Sure.
thanks.
Please, good. Sorry. I have an export business. I mean, and I need to get some information like which product is mostly exported in last month or in last previous quarter. So in this case, we need to get these information, and these information are not available. So for that, we need to go to some government websites, and there are very less information in government portals. So there are some other companies in the market which they are selling this information. Like in July, which product is most exported mostly from India to which country? So can we use ChatGPT to get this information? Is it possible?
Actually, I could only. There's a lot of echo. I could only hear half of your question.
Shall I repeat, sir?
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Sir, my question is, there are so many, I'm in business. Am I audible to you now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in export business, and we need some information like which product is mostly exported from India to other countries, and
Mhm.
in last month or in last quarter. So in government portals, there are very less information about these things, and they are for the latest data, we need to go to some other companies which is available in the market, and they are charging some amount for that. So can we use this ChatGPT to get that information?
That will be difficult because it is not publicly available information, right? So either you teach this to the chat gpt. If it is not publicly available, it will not be able to give the answer technically. And so I'm not sure if the information which is not present with chat gpt, or it has not been exposed to, is not the right thing for it to actually do. It can create generic content. Sometimes this might be misleading as well. So while so I don't think that is possible, because it has never seen that information if that is not in public domain.
Yes, thank you very much.
Any more questions? I think we are done with the questions here.
Okay.
Probably the end of the meeting. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think there was a question on chat as well. Just a second. Somebody had. Operate line.
And a little query, whether we will get this PPT. PPT मिलेगा.
Yeah, I think so. I can share it over an email. So I think Sunil has asked this question, that are there any copyrights issues for web material if we use some? So yes, I mean, if you are using for commercial purposes, see, the idea of generative AI is that it will not copy the information from the web and give it to you. It will never do that. It will create its own answer by using certain information on the web. So technically, apart from factual information, other things are made up, right? So it's basically, it will not be any copyright infringement. But if you are using somebody else's factual information, किसी कंपनी की आप यूज कर रहे हो, तो obviously there can be infringements. कि आप उसको अपना कोड कर रहे हो तो अलग हो सकता है, but generally for making any content it might not be required. Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.